Hello Internet, welcome to the Doing It AS channel. Today is JavaScript lesson 5 and we are going to talk about scope. Scope is the visibility or accessibility of our variables. Global scope. Global scope contains all other scopes. In our browser, the global scope is our window object. So if we initialize a variable in our JavaScript file, it is actually a property of our global object, which is the window object. So in our console, we can say window, which is the global object, and type in a, the name of our variable, which will give us the value. So that means every variable that we define, every global variable that we define is attached as a property into our window object. So window.p. Okay, so that is the global scope. And how we create our own scope is by using functions. So if I create a function and if I define a variable here, it is not accessible by the window object. So if I do window.test, it's going to give it. So the function, let's do test. Let's do C and type in window.test. Not test, actually C, the name of the C. See, it does not, it is undefined because it is not a global variable and the global object cannot access this C variable. It's a local variable. So now you know what are local variables. Local variables are variables that are inside a specific function. And the only way we can create scopes are using functions. And we should always avoid global scope. Why? Because if we define variables such in this way globally, then if I have another JavaScript file called test.js, let's create that in our test and alert the variable a. What does this do? You might think that this will give a reference error because there is no variable a in this JavaScript file, but it can access this variable, so it will alert 0. There you go. So this is very bad. So to avoid this, what we do is we wrap our variables or the whole variables inside immediately invoking function. So we do that using function and like so. And let's copy everything and put it inside our function. And we have to have the additional parentheses to invoke it automatically. So if it refresh, a is now cannot be referenced, so you can't reference this. Okay, so that means this variable a belongs to this scope, not the global scope. Okay, now how JavaScript looks for variables. Let's say in our function test we have variable, we want to alert variable C. Now this should alert test. Sorry, we have to call test. We call that function and we get test. Now let's create another variable C at the top and give it some other value. Now you might think, now the value that the alert gets is this, not this. If it doesn't find this, then it will alert this. Now if I refresh, it gets test, but if I delete this, it will get ask. That means that's how JavaScript looks for variables. First looks for the local variable inside the function. Then it goes to the parent scope. If it doesn't find in the parent scope, it goes to the its parent scope. So it goes like so. So at the end of the biggest scope that you can have is the global scope, which is the window object. Window object has other properties as well. If we go to our console and type in window, we get a lot of properties. So here you can see Windows has a location property which has href, now which will give you the URL of the current URL. There you go, which gives the URL. Okay, so that covers scope. So remember always to wrap your functions, wrap your JavaScript file within an immediately invoked function, so that you will not have global variables. So we know how to define our own scopes using functions. We know about local variables, and we know about the global scope and how to avoid that. And we know how JavaScript checks for variables and how it tries to find them. Okay, so that covers this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this one. Do subscribe and do like and do share. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.